Today's developments, of course, involve a Donald Trump statement that has just come out saying that help is on its way for the Iranian people. What do you think he could mean by this?
The U.S. could do any number of things. Part of the problem is that, as far as we know, there are no U.S. carrier groups anywhere near the Middle East right now. There's about 5 deployed, but they're in the Pacific and in the Caribbean, as far as I know. So if it's going to be aerial bombardment, it may take a while to organize it. Although the U.S. also has air bases in the region. It could be cyber attacks only. It could be some complex and daring commando mission like we saw in Venezuela, but Iran is a much bigger country. Tehran is much further from the sea than Caracas. I have trouble seeing it somehow, but obviously there's more than one scenario. Other questions might involve, for example, does the U.S. try to form a coalition? Does Trump try to get permission from Congress like a normal president? What to do with Israel? Because it's very easy to see where the Iranians respond to anything with an attack on Israel, and then Israel counterattack, and it becomes about that, which would undermine the protests, basically. I don't think I take very seriously sanguine statements coming out of Tehran, which is not a free society, and people speaking to your channel from there can't say anything that would displease the regime. On the other hand, we're not there, and I'm following the coverage. My old organization, the Associated Press, is reporting on this largely through videos coming out of Iran, probably through Starlink via the office in Dubai. So everyone's hampered in figuring out exactly what's going on, but it seems rather clear that the regime is prepared to kill as many people as it needs to stamp out the protests the way they did 2019 and years before that, when freedom-loving Iranians were asking Barack Obama in vain to intervene. This time they have Trump. Trump may have boxed himself in, and it looks like he has to do something.
And I want to come back to you, Elham. Of course, many people are skeptical of the statements that are coming out of Iran's state media and the government official statements in general. An internet blackout now has been in place for over 100 hours. Why is that necessary if things are stable now?
There's 2 issues. After the protest concerning about economic issues started, the internet was completely stable. But the internet was shut down just in Thursday night. After just terrorist activities happened in Tehran and also other cities such as Mashhad, Isfahan, and all around the countries. After these terrorist activities happened, the internet shut down. And after the internet shut down, we faced that these kind of activities just get down and the situation became under control.
Dan, I'm going to let you respond to that. Of course, there is messaging coming out from the Iranian government saying statements blaming what they call terrorists when it comes to this. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that I don't believe the Iranian government. This is a dictatorship of the most heinous variety. Their crimes are legendary. They've been undermining the Arab world with militias that they arm and train and fund for decades. They've been oppressing their own people. They execute gay people. They're not going to tell you the truth. So of course they're going to besmirch the protesters as rioters, and they're even going to besmirch the rioters as terrorists, and everyone's a terrorist and everything is fine, and the people who've been killed were killed by terrorists and they were security personnel. I assume all of that is lies. I admit, however, that it's difficult to know what the truth is because we don't have reporters on the ground in Iran. Why don't we? Because of the nature of the regime. So it's a complex situation. I think we're at a pivot point where it looks like the regime has to decide if they feel like they want to weather some kind of attack by the U.S. I would be extremely concerned that they try to broaden any such action to draw on Israel, which, as I said before, is a massive complication, and Israel wants nothing to do with any of this, although they have been complaining about Iran's efforts to reestablish its ballistic missile system. So a lot of moving parts, a highly unpredictable U.S. president who doesn't really seem to care about procedures. If I was the regime, the only hope I might see here for wiggle room is that Trump does not care about democracy. I mean, if Obama had gotten involved, if Biden had gotten involved, then presumably once they cross that Rubicon, their goal would be regime change. Trump has other kinds of goals, and he disdains the promotion of democracy. Even in Venezuela, we see that he decapitated the regime but left the rest of it in place. Seems to be kind of happy to do that, and he's sort of being dismissive of Machado, who by rights should be the new leader of Venezuela. I could see the Revolutionary Guard thinking maybe we can do a deal if we just sacrifice Ali Khamenei.
What happened in Iran, that this terrorist activity and completely obvious that funded by Mossad and CIA is not just about terrorist activities. It is besides economic warfare that is happened against Iranian civilians, and now we see Donald Trump put another 25% tariffs against any countries that work with Iran. And again, it shows that Donald Trump is not impressed with Iranian civilians, and also they want to make military war against Iran. And if till now the United States did not launch war against Iran, is because they worry about Israeli regime.
And of course, Iran have said that Israel is a target for retaliation. What's your perspective on that?
My perspective is that they know that if they attack Israel, Israel will then be involved, and it'll help them divert attention from that which is inconvenient to them, which is that the Iranian people are rising up against them, and that the regime is very unpopular. So they build the counter narrative where somehow it would be legitimate for them to attack Israel because Mossad is being blamed for stirring up the protests. It's all ridiculous. And I have to say, this is a case where if there is a U.S. military action, it would not be against the people of Iran. Of course, the regime would try to portray it as such, but it would be clearly against the regime of Iran, which has zero legitimacy. Their chances of winning an election right now, if it were fair, are zero. Not low, zero. The people of Iran do not want this regime. It is an oppressive, violent, criminal, and illegitimate regime. And this raises a question in geopolitics about when international action is justified in fixing the problem of a country with its own dictatorial government. And there's no easy answer for that. A classic answer for it is intervention is justified when that country's dictatorial government becomes a menace to the region. Now, that absolutely has happened around the Middle East. And you can ask millions and tens of millions of people in Arab countries who have suffered under Hezbollah and Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the Houthis in Yemen and the array of Shiite militias in Iraq that are backed by this regime. I would think that this is a case where military action is justifiable on those grounds, although of course it's problematic, obviously problematic. It would be better internationally if Trump were to try to get the support of Congress under the War Powers Act in the U.S. and then a green light from the Security Council. But of course, we know very well that there are problems there with vetoes in the Security Council, and also Trump disdains the United Nations as well. The U.S. has a very, very problematic government right now. So it is admittedly complex for the U.S. to be presenting itself as a force for democracy or a leader of the free world when it's clear that Trump is doing everything he can to support Putin and undermine the NATO alliance. I mean, we have a quite bizarre moment, but just like every broken clock is right twice a day, Trump, I think, would be justified in taking action against the regime in Iran, which would result, whatever his goal might be, in saving the people.
Of course, Iran is a huge country, and now all 31 provinces are affected by protests. What point did this this movement become something not about the economy and something far larger and to take on the regime as a whole?
I think at any point in recent decades, certainly years in Iran, you had a majority of the people wishing for regime change. What sparks demonstrations is a very complex psychological, social dynamic, and oftentimes they're sparked by economic deprivation and so forth. That theoretically was what sparked the Arab Spring 15 or so years ago. It started off supposedly about, this guy who set himself on fire for economic reasons in Tunisia, I believe. It became about something else, about, largely failed attempt to achieve freedom by overthrowing dictators. I think you have a set of circumstances now that give rise to combustibility. One of them is that, contrary to what your previous interviewee was saying from Tehran, Iran was basically thrashed by Israel and then the U.S. in the 12-day war. Their air defenses were exposed as non-existent. Much of their infrastructure was destroyed. I don't think they want a repeat of that. So that suggests weakness. Basically, weakness invites attack by your enemies. Their enemies are their people. Also, the question of leadership, as Jordan was saying just now, is a relevant one. There has been a lack of unified leadership on the ground. Reza Pahlavi, the son of the Shah, is emerging as an interesting figure because you're starting to hear more and more people talking about him simply because he's a well-known brand, and revolutions need a brand, and he has made it easy by presenting himself, including in an interview about a year ago with me, as having no monarchic aspirations, but rather seeing himself as a transitional figure en route to liberal democracy in Iran. I think these factors, combined with having a U.S. administration that is just about crazy enough to maybe actually attack them, as we see, gives people hope that this round might actually succeed in toppling the regime. Never mind Khamenei is well into his 80s, is a superannuated and incredibly disliked and detached figure. The stars appear to be aligning for something that is more than just economic. I have to say, talking to people around the Middle East, including in Israel, I don't know too many people who think that the people of Iran are their enemy. But there is tremendous agreement to the idea that the Iranian regime is the enemy. So we have here a delicate situation where anyone who goes to war at this point must make it very clear that the target is the regime and not the Iranian people. Iran is, as you said, a huge country, approaching 100 million people, a complex country that could, in some scenario, fall apart. A country that does not have the strong Persian majority. They have a lot of minorities in Iran. It has a Muslim majority, but not so much of a Persian majority. And there are scenarios where it becomes very dangerous. But as Jordan said, over in the U.S., that risk looks reasonable, considering the degree to which the status quo is horrendous.
Thank you very much for taking the time and joining us. It's a pleasure to talk to you on this issue.